Hello, hello. Today I decided to return to an old favorite of mine and one ship that has always been very, very popular with the World of Warships community, and that is the Tirpitz. People even ask me, do I even play this ship anymore? Now, I honestly, because I don't really have credit needs on my main account, I haven't had it in a long time. I haven't really played the Tirpitz as much, but I was actually given this on my alt account. I know it sounds ridiculous having this premium on an alt, but whatever. I got it, and I'm leveling a new captain on it on that account, or well, leveling and leveling. I play it every now and then, and I was reminded of just how much fun this ship is, and that's probably one of the reasons why it's always been so popular, and why it still today is just as viable as it was back when it was released. Nothing much has really changed. I mean, the inclusion of the Royal Navy cruisers haven't really impacted this ship at all. I mean, they can smoke up when you push in, and they can try to torp you, but if you get close, you melt them even harder almost than any other battleship, because not only can you shoot them to pieces, you can also torp their smokes if you see where they're shooting from. So you are like a double threat to a Royal Navy cruiser. And in general, the reason why this ship has always been one of my favorites is, of course, the aggressive playstyle. Okay, something happened there that I have to comment on real quick. Bliskovich charged into the B cap, he got detected, he smoked up, and he stopped. And this is something I tell people to never ever do, because you're literally making yourself a victim. First of all, when you smoke up, you're letting the enemy DD know exactly where you are, and if you do a full broadside, well, then you're also making the best possible effort to catch his torpedoes. So that's something I just needed to call out, because that was such a common mistake that I um, highly dislike. Now here, it's something worth pointing out, because this is a fairly new captain. I don't have manual AA, so you can see just that the AA is fairly weak, honestly, on this ship. This is one of the weaknesses of the Tirpitz, but that's something that's quickly alleviated with the captain perks. When you get manual AA, suddenly your AA goes from fairly weak to actually fairly strong. So that's not really that big of a deal on Tirpitz. And now another thing you might notice is that I keep pushing up in this ship. The Tirpitz is exponentially stronger the closer you get. Like all German battleships, this ship has access to turtleback armor, which means it's incredible. Well, it's nigh impossible to citadel from close range, and the only chance you have is at long range. So naturally, at close range, where you can citadel other people and they can't citadel you, that's where you shine. Of course, there's a reason why I call it Tirpitz dispersion when I have bad dispersion in battleships. This ship is known for having quite questionable dispersion, which is another reason for why sniping at long range in this ship is such nonsense. There's no point in sniping long range in this ship, because the dispersion is what it is. You can get anything from multiple citadels to one overpen or no hits at all. So going in close is what you want to do. This is a brawling type of ship, and of course that's what the torpedoes are for. Torpedoes highly support this. Now, this ship has naturally seen less action once the Bismarck came out. The Bismarck is also very much the same style. You kind of want to get in close, but the Bismarck requires a different kind of balance. In the Tirpitz, your goal ultimately is to get close enough to use torpedoes, or close enough to threaten the enemy with using the torpedoes. That's important. You don't always have to use torpedoes, just the threat that you have them can often be stronger than actually having them, because it forces the enemy to maneuver, and keep in mind that you can at any point launch them, any point turn broadside and launch them, and they have to constantly keep aware of that, constantly avoid that possibility. So launching both sides of torps at any sort of long range is something I heavily frown upon, because you give up that potential threat, you give up that possibility that at any point you could do this to the opponent, which forces them to maneuver in different ways. And that's why I hate when battleship Tirpitzes go in from long range and they launch their torps, both sides of them, and then they give up that unique thing that makes the Tirpitz so scary. I thought about pushing a bit harder, but since this guy smoked up and they're sitting in a smoke, I just not worth it ultimately. I think their radar... Oh, it's running out now. Is this guy gonna rush me? Sorry about that, enjoying my coffee here. Is this guy actually going to rush me? Of course, well, if you get rushed by a DD, this is what you should do. This is the best counter to being rushed by a DD. You sail away from him. You just sail straight away and you nail him with your secondaries and your back guns. It's less important to get the full broadside on him, and more important just keep sailing away from him, because it makes it incredibly hard for him to land any sort of torpedoes on you. Like sailing away like I do now, I'm pretty sure this Fubuki has torp, but how is he going to hit me from... how hitting a fleeing target is so incredibly hard in a D&D, even if it's a battleship. And Tirpitz is especially maneuverable. When did he torp? Oh, there's his torps. So there we can find his torpedo volley, and you see, as I said, because I sailed away, if I had turned right there to get my full broadside to bear at him, to get all 8 guns to bear at him, I would have been eating those torpedoes. But because I used basically what I call at this point common sense, but the most solid tactic for dealing with DDs, which is I sailed straight away and I didn't really care too much about the damage I did to him. What I wanted to know was where his torpedoes were. Like, you can turn and wreck the DD once you have seen his torpedoes, but as long as you haven't seen them, that threat, that potential huge damage still exists, and as long as the potential damage exists, you have to play extremely safe. Kind of the same thing that I talk about with the Tirpitz itself. As long as you haven't launched both sides of your torpedoes, as long as you haven't launched all your torpedoes, that potential damage, that huge threat, it still exists. And you want to hold on to that as long as possible, because that's one of the things that makes this ship unique. And that's one of the things that also makes it so strong at brawling. It's not just the fact that you can it's just not the fact that the torpedoes are dangerous, it's the fact that the threat of the torpedoes forces enemy ships to behave differently around you, and that's a huge part of the threat potential of this ship. Now I had to disengage, of course, because of all those DDs, all those torps, but once I have disengaged, well, it's back into the brawl. This type of distance is basically the optimal distance you want to play the Tirpitz as. You can do so much damage, you can do so much harassment, your gun accuracy is actually... Oh, I shot right into the wall. Wow. Alright, the accuracy at this range favors you, or the fast reload favors you at this range, because it's less about accuracy and penetration, because you're so close that those values don't matter as much. And yeah, this is basically the optimal setting. Let's see if this Satago is gonna rush me. Usually I recommend aiming a bit higher, but because I'm so close to the Tirpitz, I know I can do significant damage to him aiming at the waterline. As I said, that was only 3 hits, 11k. I'm turning in to reduce his damage, his full volley only did that much. The Satago is rushing me. Once again, I use left side torpedoes. He's torping me, I turn into them. Of course, I always turn into the source of the torpedoes, as I've said. So ultimately I only hit what? Do I hit 2 or 1? I think I only hit 1 torpedo and I turned into it. I blast him point blank through the nose. Another 12k, and I'm gonna torp him again, or is he gonna... No, he didn't even have time, because, well, he lost, what, 30k HP just trying to close the distance to me. And once again, even against cruisers, torpedo cruisers, you are so strong at the brawling game. And North Carolinas, well, you don't want to brawl with me. First of all, as I said in my North Carolina commentary, if you give full broadside, you have a very easy citadel to hit. As this, our friend here showed quite nicely, he took, what, 26k damage in a single volley, because, well, he gave me full broadside. In return, I'm angling in, of course. Even though you don't have a citadel, that doesn't mean you want to be showing full broadside. No, never. You saw what I did to the enemy Tirpitz with just 3 shells, what, 12k damage? So I'm angling in to avoid taking unnecessary damage. No citadels this time, just a few Europens, but I'm not worried. I'm angled, I'm closing the distance, which means the battle was in my favor to begin with. Once again, I still had, well, at this point, both my torpedo launchers are already reloaded, so I had the threat of the torps as well. That's kind of what you want to do when you face cruisers or enemy battleships with the torps. It's like you close the distance, you close the distance, you close the distance, and the enemy battleship, they really want to turn away, but if they turn away they give you citadel, but if they keep closing in, then they risk being torped by you. So when you rush an enemy battleship, you kind of force them into this state of indecision where they really want to turn away, because the threat of your torps, the closer they get to you, the more dangerous the threat of your torps get. But if they try to turn away, then there's still your guns and the threat of the citadel or the heavy broadside damage. And that's what you want to do. You want to force the enemy battleship into making awkward decisions that do not favor him at all. That's the fundamental of the Tirpitz. It's less about landing those juicy torps, but it's more about forcing the enemy into decisions they don't want to make. This Tirpitz, he's just reversing, running away, I guess. I'm gonna try to see if I can rush him down. This game is ending so quickly though. Didn't have time to do as much as I wanted and show as much as I wanted. I did get my Confederate there. Launched some torps in. But nope, game ended already. Unfortunate. I was hoping to show a bit more of the fundamental decision making you're forcing on the enemy. But hey, so over 600k credits. This is of course a premium. This wasn't even a long game, like what, 10-11 minutes. But you can still see how strong the Tirpitz still is to this day.